How's it going, everybody? It's me. I'm back, Will from Ghosthack, and today I'm going to be talking about my #1 top pick for best free synth plugin for sound design and sound designers. If you do a lot of sound design, then you probably have already heard about this, but I'm going to make a video about it anyway. It's Vital. Woo! Yeah. The Vital plugin is a wavetable synthesizer that is very similar to Serum in many, many ways, but it is free of charge if you are just getting Vital, the plugin itself. If you do not own Vital, then you should watch this video because maybe it will make you want to own Vital after this. If you do already own Vital, then you should also watch this video because maybe it will enhance your knowledge of this very, very nice tool. If you already have Vital and are confident that you know every single little thing about it, then you should watch this video anyway, because I mean, what else are you gonna do with your life, honestly? Exactly nothing. That's why you're here, and that's why we're here for you. So I made a sick, thick, juicy, growly, cool little Riddim bass thing in Vital. It's kind of unconventional, kind of interesting, and I'm going to go over that patch, and as I go over the things that I did for that patch, I'm also gonna just basically go over Vital and show you how it's a little bit different, you know, like the little elements that make it different from tools such as Serum, other than the fact that Serum is $200 and Vital is free. But that's enough chit chat. Let's hop into it. So here we are. This is the little bass patch that I'm going to show you today. It's just a little nifty, wormy, squirmy, Riddim bass house-ish bass, you know, depending on what kind of genres you're into. And maybe it's not the greatest bass in the entire world, but it is good at displaying the kind of features that Vital has. Now, full disclaimer, I do have my Thicc rack on here, which makes my basses sound nice and fat and thick. Without it, it sounds like this. It's the same, it's just not as heavy. So all my processing really for that is just to make it thicker and louder and just harder. And if you want to know how my Thicc rack works, there's a link in the description that will take you to a video where I'm going over and explaining the Thicc rack that I always put on my basses. But that's just what I threw on top of this. So from the beginning, let's just start where the sound birthed itself, which was from Oscillator 1. And honestly, when I play it, you can already hear Oscillator 1 is doing the majority of the work here. Now, there isn't an Oscillator A and B like Serum. There is Oscillator 1, 2, and 3 because there are 3 oscillators instead of 2. That's already something that's pretty useful. And I will say I'm a big fan of some of the wavetables that it comes with just right out the gate. It's not as many as Serum, but I think they're really good for sound design, especially in bass music. I chose one called Clicky Robot. I found some good positions to kind of morph around in, and I used LFO 1 here to just switch around those positions. So LFO 1 kind of morphs the wavetable, and then LFO 3 right here is actually doing the wobbling up and down in the volume. I just set it right on top of the level because you can just drag and drop right on top of the level just the same way you would in Serum. And that's doing this shape. And you can see that I've added a lot of different modulations to this motion. This is doing the majority of the work as far as this modulation section goes. Because it sections out, you know, just like Serum is, and in similar ways as to Faceplant. It's just in slightly different areas. So now your oscillators are here, and then you have your envelopes, and then your LFOs right here. You have macros on the side, filters down here, and you have other sort of modulation options here. And we'll get into the other tabs in a minute, but that's what I did with LFO 3. I just modulated the level, and already it's sounding pretty good just with that Clicky Robot wavetable. Now, I did take envelope 2 and drag it on the frequency of the LFO, so it right here you can hear it going faster, and then when it falls down it goes back to the normal quarter speed. I added this layer with Oscillator 2 because I wanted some more high-end texture, and that's where layering the oscillators really works well. To make sure that it all sounded like it went together, I actually decided to use Clicky Robot again, as you can see, but I did some different things. I used some warp modes here, and these are probably some of my favorite features of Vital as opposed to Serum or Faceplant, is these warp modes, because they have some really interesting ones. It isn't just the bend plus, minus, and like sync and things like that that you have that you have in Serum. You have those as well here, you know what I'm saying? You have a lot of those, the bending stuff, but they also have different ones like harmonic stretching and smearing and all kinds of, they have like low pass filters and stuff as well. But I really like this one that is random amplitudes. And what this does is it just randomizes the amplitudes of the frequencies in the wavetable, and you get just really dissonant, weird tones. Which is what I did here. And I also added a little bit of harmonic squeeze, so it just kind of shapes the wave. And that added a really nice layer on top of this sound that we had in Oscillator 1. I kind of modulated the squeeze around a little bit, as well as the level with LFO 3. And with LFO 1 here, which was controlling the wavetable of Oscillator 1, I also set that to control this random amplitude of Oscillator 2, because, you know, that's gonna drastically change the tone of the wavetable. So I wanted it to shift around in tones as I was holding down one note. So that's all well and good, but it needs some layers. And the first layer that I added was really just a saw wave. I modulated the level, I dropped it down to the same octave, this really basic, and I also added a little bit of this vocode warping mode. I don't know if these are technically called warping modes, but I'm just going to refer to them as warping modes. And it just added a little bit deeper, a little bit darker of a tone to the saw wave. It didn't really change too much, it's still basically a saw wave, but layering that all together works very well and makes the sound much thicker and richer. Makes it a little grittier and crispier as well. And then I can throw some noise in here with this sample oscillator, which I can drag anything into this sample oscillator. I could drag any different audio file and drop this in here, but I decided to just stick with one of the noises that they already had, which was pink noise. And then I modulated the level with LFO 3 and just layered that on top. It's subtle, it's hard to hear, but it definitely comes out, especially when I add compression. Also, I should mention another thing I did was I used LFO 5 that's going very fast at 1/16, and I applied it a little bit to the pan of these two oscillators right here. And so it's kind of panning back and forth and whipping back and forth pretty fast. And that's a little unconventional, but I just did that to add a little bit of stereo width and excitement, as long as the saw wave was a solid mono sort of bass. Not basses in BASS, I'm talking like basses in like bass. After that, we can flip on the filters, and right here you can choose which oscillators you want to go through the filters. You can see that all of them are yellow or orange here. And so all of them are going through the filter. And this filter is a phaser positive. I just chose a phaser because I wanted to add a little bit of kind of froggy vowel tone to it. And it's actually doing a lot of work as far as the vowel tone that this bass has. So I'm modulating the drive a little bit with this shape in LFO 3 and in LFO 4, which is very similar to LFO 1. It's basically the same thing. I just made a couple of changes. I'm modulating the cutoff of this phaser shape. So it's kind of moving back and forth and creating that vowel motion. And you can use these sliders to constantly be adjusting the position and like how strong you want it to be, like this. You can really, like, you have a lot of freedom with these shapes, in my opinion, is there's a lot you can do to kind of shape these sounds. Like, look how I'm shaping this filter right here. I'm adding and removing poles. I'm making them taller or shorter. You can increase the ridges and valleys and mountains and things like that. Pretty decent filters on this guy. If I'm being honest, I still prefer Serum's filters, but they work out pretty well. And now we're going to go through the sections. As you can see, there's 4 different sections up here. Much like Serum, you have the voice section, which is just your main area with all of these modules. You have your effects section, which you still have access to these modules, same as you would in Serum, you know, where they would be down below. It's just rearranged. And you have all these effects. So you basically have your channel strip, with a bunch of cool stuff. You have the matrix, so you can control all your modulations and what they're mapped to and whether they're bipolar and all kinds of fun stuff. It looks pretty technical, but it's there if you need it. You don't need to access this, but it's there for you. And then you have some advanced areas of analysis, and you have some options when it comes to the oscillators and oversampling and stuff like that. That's all in the advanced tab if you are one of the people that needs that. It's kind of cool if you're a nerd, which I definitely am, but we're going to move on from that. First up, a little bit of Flanger. I really enjoy this Flanger a lot more than Serum's Flanger. I know I'm comparing this to Serum a lot, but Serum is pretty much my number one synth that I use all the time, so I think it's a good comparison. So I really like how you can just freeze it and you can move the center around. Kind of like another filter, because like I would add like a Flanger filter or something like that right here to achieve that kind of effect. So that just gives a little bit of metallic flavor, and obviously you can increase that if you wanted. I just wanted it to be subtle. They do have a filter here, which I am using to do something really interesting. This is a really cool filter. I like it. It's a Combs filter, but it's mixed with like a band pass, right? And there are a couple options for this. It's like a Flanger plus filter mixed with a band pass. So there's more flanging where you set the cutoff, right? Because my cutoff is at about 44 right now. I can move the cutoff around and look at what it does, right? The position of the flanger is not changing, but the boosts in the peaks and valleys of the flanger are changing based off this cutoff position. It's really cool. It is really an interesting way to accentuate or add a metallic resonance to just certain areas of your sound. I like it a lot. I'm a fan. And you can hear there's just some harmonic dissonance between those notes as it's kind of shifting around and worming around. It feels alive. I like it a lot. Next up, distortion. I mean, that's pretty straightforward. You just have your distortion types, and there's the filter and the drive and all kinds of fun stuff. So a little bit of soft clip goes a long way. Next up, compressor. I'm actually not as big of a fan of this compressor as I am from the one in Serum, mainly because I think the one in Serum is a lot better for just driving it through really loud, just cranking that threshold knob up. But it does its job. It's a multi-band compressor. It's very good. You have a lot of control over it, so it's it's a good, solid compressor. It tends to do a better job at containing the sound, in my opinion, rather than just blowing it up and blowing it forward. Next up, delay. You probably know the drill here. This is just a really tight frequency. I changed these to seconds right here. It starts out on tempo. I changed it to seconds. I just made it really tight, low feedback, low mix. I just controlled the EQ. I do like that it has an EQ right there, just like Serum. And it's just a nice little metallic tail, more metallic tone to the end of the sound. Next up, chorus, and this makes it a little bit dissonant as well. I do like this chorus. I think it's very intuitive, especially with its display right here. I just found some settings that I liked, and I modulated the mix up and down with LFO3. And then lastly, I just tossed, just a little bit of reverb on here. Just a dash is all you needed. So I like how there's an EQ built into the reverb. I need that with my reverbs. I think that's great. It actually looks very similar to the EQ that's on Ableton's stock reverb, but that's neither here nor there. It's pretty good. So I just made it real tight and I mixed it in. So it's just a little extra room that's hard to hear until, of course, you add the Thicc rack on top of it, which, like I said before, I have a Thicc rack video that you can take a look at. Link is in the description. And now everything's coming out and coming together. And like I said, nothing in the Thicc rack is really affecting the sound that much other than just making it louder and a little bit beefier. It's like there is a Vocodex on it, but there's only 20 bands and the width is all the way up. Like everything's coming through. It's not removing anything. It's just making it sound thick. And then just so you can hear this sound kind of in context, this would be how it might sound if it was in some kind of infect style deep rhythm drop. there's Vital. It's a great plugin, very useful for sound designers, especially it being free. This isn't a sponsored video at all. This is just me wanting to say this. It's like I'm not selling a product here. It's free. Oh, I forgot to mention that actually this plugin is free. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, you can drop a like. If you want to see me do more things with Vital in the future, then let me know in the comments below, because it's a very nice synth and I'm sure it could be very helpful for some people to learn more about a free synth that can do a lot of cool stuff. So hit subscribe for more music production videos and tutorials, and I will see you in the next video. Happy producing.